Welcome to the Modern CPA Success Show, where we're 100% focused on helping accounting firms achieve success. If you're an accounting firm owner who wants to learn how to grow your firm by providing virtual CFO services, then this podcast is for you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's podcast. We are happy to be joined once again by Stephen Pope and Adam Hale. So we actually were just pre-showing a little bit, and Adam started asking a question. I had to make him be quiet for a second because I wanted to get this on air. So we're going to jump right to that because I think this question will take us right into it. So welcome to the show, Stephen and Adam. But Adam, why don't you go down the path you were just going down?
Yeah, I was just telling the guys that I got an email from another CPA firm, which, you know, we're always talking shop about rates and different things. But the email that came up was, I can just read it. Adam, I really love the podcast. Too bad Jamie is the host. Oh, wait, hang on.
That's the wrong email.
That part. Okay.
That's wrong. The next email.
Oh, no. Here's where it goes. Okay. So this is the relevant part. No, they were just talking about how much they've thrown away. So much money at marketing, over the last year or so. And they said that they've tried LinkedIn, they've tried Google AdWords, cold email campaigns, et cetera. And just wanted to know if there's one thing that worked better than the other for us, so Stephen, I'll just throw that at you. I mean, this sounds like something that, a lot of people come to you for and have probably say the exact same thing.
Yeah. So that's true. A lot of people just invest marketing and it goes nowhere. And then people are also always looking for the magic channel, right? Is it YouTube? Is it SEO? Is it LinkedIn? Is it TikTok? I think we're going to talk about TikTok here a little bit too. And the truth is, or cold email, right? So I think part of the problem is that what actually makes marketing effective is that you're saying something that really resonates with somebody. And it's not the same old message that everyone says. Otherwise, you literally just can't stand out. You look like everyone else. And so when you go out and you hire a marketing agency to do this for you, the chances are, unless they're really, really expensive, that they're not going to be able to communicate your value, the way you think, the way you, especially for professional services, it's like know, like, and trust. How is a marketing agency going to convey who you are to the rest of the world? Like, I know they all sit down and they have those onboarding calls where they talk to you about who you are and like, what do you do? And they give you that questionnaire, but like, how deep can that really go? So then they end up just producing assets and they're just publishing things. It's kind of like more like they're just creating assets and doing actions versus doing the hard work, which is developing the actual message that is going to cut through the noise and get somebody to actually reach out to you. And so a lot of the time when somebody says, hey, I tried LinkedIn, I tried this, I tried that, when I actually go and do an audit of what they're doing, they're not really trying. They're just checking the box. They're saying, hey, I posted on LinkedIn and nothing happened. And then I look and it's like, well, it's because of this. It's because of what you're posting. And let me show you 30 other CPAs that are posting sometimes the same generic content, because a lot of these companies will go out and just buy pre-made content and push that out. And it's like, how are you going to stand out as a different firm if you're literally pushing out the same content as someone else? So that's kind of where I'd start. Any one of these channels can work, but you have to go a little bit deeper and be willing to figure out what that message is. As opposed to just like going out and trying to outsource it to someone else.
So I know we're going to talk a lot about teenagers in this podcast as we go down the TikTok path, but I think the word you're looking for is viral, right? Like, I think that's the thing is like, you're just making the same videos as everyone else with no passion. No one's going to buy into it. So you're really looking for that way to make a video, no matter what the platform is, that people are going to buy into and want to watch. I mean, that sounds what I heard there.
Yeah. I mean, your content has to be good. Right. Like where I see the advantage of going online is like you have the ability to create awareness and you can do know, like, and trust, but at some sort of scale. And so when I talk about viral videos, I don't mean that it needs to be like millions and millions of views, but like if you spend a few minutes on a video, you want it to get thousands of views. And so your content ultimately has to be good, and you have to be committed to figuring that out, because there's no perfect formula. But you want some virality to it. Otherwise, you don't get the scalability.
And do you think the views are more important, or just kind of the reactions from it? Like, again, I know sometimes I'll take a view, 200 views on a podcast. If I get like 5 or 6 questions on it, I'm like, good, this is generating a lot of conversation. I think even if the higher percentage of people are reacting to it, I think that's also just as important.
Yeah. And you have to look at all of these things in context, right? So on YouTube, you're probably going to get a smaller number of views. But then if you're getting comments from people and asking questions, that's a great indicator that you're on the right track, right? And then you take those questions that people are asking you and you create content out of that. On social media, you have the advantage, like YouTube is social media, but like on TikTok and LinkedIn, you have the ability to get more views than that on a daily basis. But then they're usually shorter videos, so people aren't consuming as much of you. So you get 200 views on a link or on a YouTube video, and especially if they watch the full 20 minutes, that's a lot of exposure for yourself. So yeah, some semblance of scalability in your content is important, because it has to be engaging and shareable to get that scalability out of it.
All right. Well, talk to me about TikTok then, because I thought that was just, I'm personally not a user, but I know many people that just fall into the staring at their phone, watching people just play pranks on each other and running into stuff.
Right.
It usually involves some physical humor. So how do accountants, like, do you want me just to like pretend like do I need to play a prank on Jamie in order to get some views on TikTok? Or
again, this time with video?
Yeah. So with TikTok, I think this is the thing that everyone tells me. It's like, oh, it's just for entertainment. There's kids dancing. But the important thing to think about is that it's an application where it's drawing interested people. It's drawing people to be entertained. So you have an audience, regardless of what other people are creating there. That has nothing to do with what you have to offer. So you have people that are attentively looking at this content. So you have the opportunity to come in and deliver your message. Now, how should you be going about that? Some people are extroverted, some people are introverted, some people would dance. I've actually done a couple of little dances on there. It's not what I do primarily.
Well, you can show us. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's time. We have plenty of time here.
Prove it.
So, but the thing is, it's like you kind of have to find your groove there. It doesn't happen just overnight, but you have people that are actively viewing this app. Like on a lot of other channels like LinkedIn, you don't necessarily have people going there to say, hey, I want to go watch some content on LinkedIn. I've never heard anybody say that. But I do hear them saying that about TikTok. And where you have attention, that's where you have an opportunity. And because this is a new platform, it's less crowded. So you have an opportunity to come in and claim a bigger piece of the pie. You think about Summit CPA, you guys cornered the market on SEO for virtual CFOs real early. Took you a little bit of time to do that, but now like look what happened 15 years later. It's like it's become like the cornerstone of what you guys did, because you just committed to it early. And I think that's kind of the opportunity that you have on TikTok. So like, just for an example, I did one video last week, got close to 100,000 views. It's got like 7,000 likes, 2,000 shares. So other people have shared it 2,000 times. And it's literally booked me 18 calls.
Were you dancing?
Yes,
I was not. There was no dancing involved in this video.
So, what was the content of the video? So, what was the topic, and kind of what type of people found? 100,000 people. That sounds like crazy to me. That many people would watch that and not wait for you to sing or dance.
Whoa! Did you hear that, Steve? He finds it. He just cannot get his mind around that 100,000 people would want to watch your video. If I was on TikTok, I would watch your video.
No, I'm saying on TikTok. Yeah, I watch his YouTube videos all the time, and it's linked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, on TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know what it was? Well, you know what it was? I shared the strategy that we're both using to do content. So I basically I did a quick message and said, hey, here's the strategy that I'm using and my clients are using to generate revenue. And I mentioned, how much revenue people are generating from this. So, I did get straight to the point. Like, I'm going to show you how to do this strategy. And then I literally just went to my whiteboard and I mapped it out visually. And then I used the phone to go over the whiteboard and just literally just show you what it is. And so that has a couple of effects. Is number one, it's I'm getting right to the point, so I'm not wasting your time. You understand exactly what I'm about to show you. And then it also keeps your attention because I'm using the phone as like it's a real camera, and like, you know, I'm going over things. So there's some like kind of engaging filming going on. And, you know, and I kind of stumbled into that, you know, just by doing, right? So like when I first did my first couple of TikToks, you know, I'm a little slower and didn't have these skills, but because I just committed to doing it, then that happened. And then here's that's what that video was about. So I just literally broke down how you guys and how I do content, which is pretty much the same almost, from a big picture point of view. And then what's cool is that I also take that same video and then I publish it to LinkedIn, and I got another like few thousand shares on that. And then I'm also pushing those same videos also to YouTube, which is driving a lot of new traffic to YouTube. I've grown my YouTube channel by 50% using these TikTok videos over there. And the reason why that's happening is because all these platforms want to copy TikTok. So Reels, Instagram, YouTube, they're all coming out with their own like TikTok style format. And so people that are publishing like those kind of vertical videos on YouTube are getting extra attention because the algorithm is pushing people towards that. So I've done, I don't know how many podcasts, but I've grown faster from these TikToks than my podcasts, which I thought that it's just kind of fascinating.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think the only times I've ever considered joining TikTok is when I've seen someone I follow on Instagram post a TikTok video on Instagram where you can see the TikTok symbol in the corner, right, and they're like, okay, this is what we're doing over on TikTok. And I'm like, I guess I could get more of that same content over on TikTok. Maybe I should check it out, but I haven't pulled the plug yet. So maybe you're going to talk me into it today.
Yeah, it seems like I'm converting people to it. But I think the other interesting thing about TikTok that I'll say is, and I say this about content creation in general, because everyone always wants to know, like, what is it doing for my business? How much money is it making you? And I think those are obviously great metrics. But the thing for me, like more than anything, is like I'm really learning how to communicate my value to people. And I'm always doing it. So I'm getting daily practice on how to communicate. I'm better on this podcast because I make videos every day. It's also because I have a podcast, but I'm living and breathing these things. So learning how to get on camera and getting over the fear of that, I was like deathly afraid of video a year and a half ago. So learning these skills and then learning how all these younger kids do think and how are they creating content and what can I absorb from them that I can deliver to a marketplace that has never seen it. So like I do a TikTok video on LinkedIn, even without dancing, and I look like an alien. So if you want to stand out, go to where the action is and bring it back to places that haven't seen the action yet. You're just creative like that, and you learn these things, and these, you know, some of the things that I'm talking about, I can help people accelerate that progress, and some of the things you kind of have to do. You got to do some of these things before they ultimately get results. And so we go back to what your original question was: is like, why do a lot of these marketing companies, or why do people waste a lot of money on marketing? Part of it is just because the marketing companies can't deliver your message in your voice, but it's also because they quit too early. You know, it's like, you're not going to just like post, you know, a couple of blogs or a couple of videos and just expect that that's going to change everything. Otherwise everyone would be doing that, and they are. So
oh, that's true. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, you know, I think whenever people think about immediate returns, I mean, obviously there's, you know, that kind of relates to pay-per-click stuff, you know, but whenever you're talking about just putting content out there, I can tell you, I mean, definitely for us, there wasn't an immediate reaction to it. It was more of just getting better, putting more and more and more content out there. And then eventually small stuff from a year, you know, you're just planting seeds. Small stuff from a long time ago starts picking up. And to your point, it's probably a lot more immediate. That's whenever we were doing a lot with blogging and that kind of stuff. But with the video presentations, obviously that's going to get a little bit more immediate reaction. But To your point, I think that what I think's cool about that is you can take one of these platforms and then spread it across 3 or 4,
right,
and really get the bang for your time, really, because it's not really costing a whole lot, right? Outside
yeah.
of your time.
Yeah. So, and for most firms, I suggest, hey, like instead of hiring an expensive firm, like learn some of the basics for yourself, so that you can then, when you do decide to outsource, which is fine, like you're at least doing it skillfully, and like you're doing it at a sustainable and affordable rate. Um, and then like another good way to kind of think about content in terms of like you've got all these different things that you might be doing. Like you might be posting videos on social media and stuff like that, or you might have a podcast. I think of the podcast like on a fire. It's like the podcast is that big log. It's like the main burner, but the social media is the kindling that's bringing awareness to these bigger things that you're doing. And when you start to kind of think of it that way, and it's like, and you're committed, it's just like, I think CEOs and partners, and they should be part-time marketers and really learn what that is. And to be honest, like the only skills you really need is like, where are your customers hanging out? What do they want to know? What do they need to know? And if you know those things, and then you could go out and hire people to help you execute on those things. Because if you could always basically ask them the question, it's just like, is that what they like? Anytime they give you a proposal, it's like you could kind of run it through that filter. You can say, hey, are my customers actually there? Do they really need to know this? And what do they not know that they need to know? And if you can answer those questions on a basic level, you have the fundamentals of marketing, and then you can manage it without having to literally do everything yourself.
Are you interested in offering virtual CFO services at your firm or scaling your existing service offerings? The Virtual CFO Playbook, How to Land $60,000 a Year Clients and Provide a Killer Client Experience, is an online series of modules that will equip you with essential tools for creating and delivering scalable VCFO services. These approaches have helped Summit CPA grow from $500,000 to upwards of $5 million in revenue over the past decade. If you're ready to grow your firm, visit summitcpa.net/VCFO Playbook to enroll now.
What about the rest of us that aren't as cool as you, that don't feel as comfortable? Because you're going to get a lot of that, especially, in our community and industry. What do you suggest for those people? Just like find somebody on your team that is comfortable doing it and start doing that, or like what's the options there?
In terms of like specifically video or just marketing?
Video specifically, because a lot of what we're talking about is video posts that can be multi-purposed across different platforms. So how would you recommend somebody doing that maybe doesn't feel comfortable getting in front of the camera or the mic, whatever?
So you can always find somebody on your team. You would want to like think about long-term, like, is this a partner? Is this somebody, I'm just saying, like, you want to be careful that you don't build a marketing plan that's going to just completely fall apart if that person decides to move on. But on the other front, I would advocate pretty strongly that maybe you try to do some of this video stuff. So what is it that's really keeping you from it? So some people just say, I'm not good at video, I don't know marketing. It's just, that's really something you're telling yourself a story there. There are ways of figuring these things out. That's what I did. So I probably just wouldn't end it there with the conversation, but I'm the type of person that likes to push people to do things. So I would encourage you to figure it out. I'd say, hey, what is really keeping you from doing this? What's the barrier? Is it imposter syndrome? Is it fear? Do you not know how to articulate your ideas? Is it just the equipment is overwhelming? Isolate what the problem is, and let's get to it and get you on camera. And I mean, I honestly, before I did this, I had committed that I was going to do it, but I couldn't sleep for weeks thinking about having to do this. So like, you can go from being that terrified to me being on video literally every single day, and it being just like an integral part of my whole system. And there's like different levels between that extreme, right? It doesn't always have to be so
Well, I think the other key too is, and what something I mentioned earlier, is just being consistent with it and not giving up at it. I know when we started this podcast, that's one of the things that I brought up as a podcast consumer is there's been so many podcasts that I've followed, and again, the episodes would come out weekly, and I would download it weekly, and then all of a sudden there'd be a month break, and I was like, "Oh, are they done?" And I'd stop following that podcast, or they started coming out sporadically, and I'm like, "I never know when one's going to come out. I'm just going to stop listening to this. There's no reason for me to follow it anymore." So that's one of the things that I insisted on. Like, if we're doing this podcast, we need to have a regular schedule, and we need to fill the airtime. But I think that's the one thing, and I think the other part of it too is there's lots of different avenues you can go down, right? Like, it doesn't need to be a 30-minute on video every single time with guests. Like, there's plenty of podcasts out there. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there that are just 5 minutes. We're going to talk for 5 minutes, and we're going to do it once a week, and people can still consume that. So I think that's kind of the other aspects of it, is just because this is how one group's doing it or how another group's doing it, is you can create your own thing that's completely different and doesn't take as much of your time, and you don't have to have the video fright, and maybe you'll get over that a little quicker if you're doing it once a week or every day.
I mean, exactly, man. And so that's the thing, is like, people have all these preconceived ideas. So just wipe the slate clean and be willing to commit and figure it out, because that's the trick. Like, when we talk about developing a marketing message that really resonates with people, that's hard. You're not going to just sit in a boardroom and just be like, "This is the tagline that everyone's going to love," right? Only the people in that room like it, and that's you. It's not your customers. So what is actually interesting is that if you're producing content and you're out on social media, you're interacting, you will hone your message because you'll get feedback from the marketplace. Like, marketing is actually nothing more than it's a tool. It's a tool to hypothesize on what people are interested in listening to, seeing if that's actually what they want. And if not, you do less of it. If they like it, you do more of it. And that's what hones in your marketing message. And that's how you find whether you like to do a live show or a podcast, or whether your podcast should be named this or that. All these questions that you want answered right now are actually answered through iteration. And then, it's like one other thing you mentioned too, like the paid ads that the other person had tried. Like, those aren't going to work either until you know what people really want, right? It's like, if I'm going to trust you with my money and my business, because that's what I'm doing if I hire you, like, why would I click on that ad when I could probably just ask a couple people and get their suggestion? And so if you want to be able to be successful online, you're going to have to develop a message that resonates with people, gets them to click that button, makes them say, "Hey, I've never heard anybody say it like that."
I think there's lots of different dynamics that go into it. So just to use us as an example, and using this podcast as an example, early on, we did quite a few podcasts with just two people, whether it was Adam and I, Jody and I, or just me and a guest. And those podcasts just didn't go as well as when there were three people. So that's why we've moved to that path of, okay, instead of it just being Adam and I sitting here talking about a topic, let's bring someone in. Even if it's someone internal, let's have the three-way conversation versus the two-way. And those podcasts seem to go a lot smoother, and the guests are more willing to come on if there's two of us here. And I think it's just something that we've kind of worked into. And then we started seeing, okay, when it's a 3-episode, when we have 3 guests and we have 3 people on the podcast, we get more downloads. And so it doesn't always have to be time, doesn't always have to be content. It's just looking for all those different things of what really works and looking for those trends.
Yeah. And how would you have figured that out unless you tried? Right. Like, I just kind of revamped my podcast. I had gotten through like 30 episodes, and I was looking back, I was like, man, there's a couple interviews that didn't go that well. What do I really like to do? What are people responding to? And then I refined everything. And then I actually started doing a few less of them. And then I started doing something else. I do live shows now. That's a whole other kind of conversation. But yeah, the insights that you want are gathered by doing.
Yep.
People get stuck on, what's my podcast name? Is it this or that? And it's like, just, sit down, do your best. Like, I'm not saying like, just don't think about it at all, but think about it, get it down, do a few of them. Most people, the first couple aren't even going to be seen by too many people. So right. You don't have to worry too much about it.
I can tell you that.
Your wife and your kid or something.
Yeah, and also don't listen to their feedback either, because they can just because your wife likes it doesn't mean that somebody else will like it. And just because your friend gives you a hard time that says you looked horrible on that podcast doesn't mean you actually did. And so you only want to listen.
Sounds really personal to me, Steve.
well, when you're getting on video, it does kind of feel personal. And you will get feedback from people that don't matter. Like, my friends matter, but they're not buying my services. So it doesn't, if they say they like my podcast or don't like it, it doesn't mean that your customers will or won't.
Yeah, you want to be the cool guy at a party. You tell people that you run an accounting podcast. I mean, that's like elevates you to the center of the room, and people gather around you and ask you a ton of questions. And like, you can't get away from that party once you tell people that. Isn't that right, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, but usually he's dancing at the same time. So I think it's more of a dance circle when Jamie's around than anything else. But so that's how we're going to do the TikTok.
Yeah, that's how you do TikToks. That's how you get on there.
Yeah,
I see
we'll
your guys
just have his daughter do it.
I see you guys are on TikTok though. I see she's making the videos of you guys and putting them out there. I don't know if you know that, but they're there.
Yeah, we'll just have to mix it up with some remixes or something, make it a little hipper and cooler. Yeah. Okay, so I got to ask you about this too. What is up with 2 p.m. for marketing people? I probably get, I don't know, Jamie, you can see if you do this, but I'm sure most of our listeners do. I probably get at least 3 emails a day, 7 days a week that ask, hey, Adam, how does Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time work for a meeting? I think our approach to finding and generating new leads and clients might work for your company. Our solutions of blah, blah, blah. Do you get that many, Jamie? Do you get literally 10 a week, 20 a week?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't see the trend of 2 p.m., but I'm going to start looking for that now. But no, I definitely get, and there's so many creative topics of there's enough creative topics that get me to read it. But then once I realize I'm being tricked, I'm like, I'm not going to respond back to that dude.
Yeah. Well, and the answer to that is that, so everyone's trying to find the hack, right? Nobody wants to really do the work. They want to find the hack. So you go online, you say, how do I write a cold email? And it tells you should do this and you should do that. And you should say it, this is when people actually open emails. And so you go down these rabbit holes where you're trying to find the latest hack. And quite frankly, I think hacks can work, but hacks only work for the people that love hacks, and they're staying on, that's all they do. Right. So they just always know what those are. But most of us, including myself, that's not a thing that I can sustain. The reason why those things happen is because they're literally templates out there that people are just copying. The same thing happens with all the LinkedIn automated messaging. It's always the same thing. So the best way, if you really want your marketing to work, is to ignore all of that noise, wipe the slate clean, start fresh, figure out how you're going to just incrementally build on something that works, and step by step, don't get distracted, and give yourself enough time to make sure it's working. And if you stop, know why you're stopping. You're like, okay, I really tried this. I did my best. I literally went pretty deep on this and there's nothing here. That's when you should pivot. But most of these channels that we're talking about, LinkedIn, people are making lots of money on LinkedIn. So if it didn't work for you, it's because of something you're doing.
Okay. Yeah, well, and I mean, I see some of these messages too. And whenever I hear people say, hey, our combined, calls / emails, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want you sending this email to my potential customers. I would be like, these guys are awful. So, but the point is, I guess, is that you don't have to fall into the trap of spending a ton of money doing a bunch of Google AdWords. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, we did it out of necessity with the blogging and putting a lot of content out that way. So, I mean, that's still, that traditional way of getting things out is still great. But what you're suggesting and saying is, though, hey, you can be on 4 or 5 different social media platforms all at the same time using the exact same content, just kind of cutting it and repurposing it for everywhere. And it's not really going to cost you a lot of money. It might cost you a little bit of time. And then, like you said, if you don't feel comfortable, maybe somebody in your office can videotape you or something, somebody that might be willing to do that for you.
Yeah. And plus you can reuse those same videos for blogging. So like you guys, and I have a writer that converts those videos into writing, and then they apply it the search engine stuff that you need to do in order to make that stuff happen. I would say, like, don't do what I'm doing right now and try to go onto 5 platforms at once. Like, I'm only doing that because I've kind of built up the number one, I think the stamina, and like I know what I'm trying to say, and so I know how to do it. You still want to start on one platform, make sure you kind of have things figured out. But it doesn't actually take that much money. It's all time, or getting your assistant to help you with some of the publishing. You can get people to do these things if you know what to tell them to do.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So we are right up against time here. So I want to give you guys both a chance for a final thought. I think we got a lot out of this. I know I did. Like you said, Adam's going to have me on TikTok soon here. I'm pretty sure, actually doing a dance or a song. But don't hold your breath if that's what you're waiting for. But I want to kind of hear both your guys' final thoughts, and I appreciate you for joining the show. Start with you, Stephen.
Yeah. So my final thought is really just, I think marketing as a skill is going to be your competitive advantage going forward. And, we saw that coronavirus made people think about the digital aspect of their business. And then there was a spike in that. And then, people get comfortable. It's like, oh yeah, I'm still getting my business is still, I think this is going to become bigger and bigger. So I don't think people need to become expert marketers, but I think they should strive to be dangerous enough to where they can have a consistent, sustainable, and skillfully executed marketing strategy that exists from now until they sell their business. And having those essential skills in-house so that you can skillfully outsource or hire the people that you need is going to just become pretty much the differentiator between businesses that scale and businesses that don't.
Great. Adam?
I mean, just building on that, again, like we talked about, it doesn't cost a whole lot to do it. Everything you're talking about there is done in iterations, and you can do it yourself. I mean, that definitely speaks to the accountant, the cheap, frugal accountant in me. So, that's the thing, is low, you're really standing in your own way there. So you can hone that skill pretty easy, and you don't have to have a ton of people doing different things for you. But it would be in your best interest to maybe even find a coach that kind of specializes in that and just kind of walk you through. Because as an industry, we're not the most creative people in the world. So having somebody kind of help us think through that stuff makes a lot of sense, I think.
Yeah, cool. And accountants do understand ROI. And I think content marketing is all about that. You just little deposits. And then you look back a couple months later and you're like, oh crap, like this is compounding on itself now.
For sure.
Yeah, I think video gives you the opportunity to be personal, have that personal touch without actually having to meet a ton of people too. Like I can't tell you the number of interviews I go into or prospective clients I talk to that, they walk in feeling like they already know me because they've seen me on video so many times. And I think that's the personal touch everybody's looking for that, Adam already mentioned. Those emails annoy you, where the videos are like, oh, okay, I'll watch 3 minutes of this video that's talking, and I'll get to know these people. And they come in a lot more prepared, which is what I think any good salesperson is looking for. So I think that's to me the key here, and why I think we push so much towards video. So
and they actually still show up after they've seen Jamie and heard him talk for a few minutes. So
crazy,
pretty solid people.
You're weeding out the ones that can't stand you, right? Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I think that was a great episode, and thanks for all the information.
Yeah, glad to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Yep, no problem.
Okay.
Enjoy this podcast? Visit our website at summitcpa.net to get more tips and strategies for achieving modern CPA firm success. We're here to be a resource in this ever-changing industry.